Before we begin, I'd just like to remind everyone that no player can discuss prospective student athletes, including family members, in this setting. With that being said, we're going to begin with questions for safety Amari Carter. First up, we have Matt Shodell from Kane Sport. Matt, go ahead for Amari.
Hey, Amari, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing great. So I wanted to ask you about the defense last weekend. You know, there was some good, there was some not so good. What was sort of your overall takeaway from how you guys played, and then what needs to improve this week against Florida State?
Overall, I feel like we ran to the ball, pursued the ball pretty well. We can get better with, just overall tackling, our angles, and just eye discipline. That was another thing that we can most definitely improve on. But overall, just running to the ball, I think we did pretty well.
Great. Next up, we're going to go to Christopher Stock from Inside the U. Chris, go ahead for Amari.
Yeah, Amari, curious about the targeting stuff that you've kind of dealt with in your career from last year, and then it's come up a couple times this year where you didn't get called. And just kind of your approach to the game, and obviously Manny spoke on that he thought it was a good play. Just what do the coaches kind of tell you as well? If you can answer those, that'd be helpful.
Well, the biggest thing that the coaches tell me is just make sure, when I'm striking, that it's in, an area that, will take out that question. Some plays, it's just like, a bang, bang play, and it's just, so fast and it happens. But, we play football, so, things happen, it's going to be like hits like that. But the biggest thing I can do is just make sure, that I'm, trying to keep myself safe, and then also the other person just with, not, ducking my head, and I'll just aim, not aiming at their head, which I never try to do. It's always, I'm trying to, aim at, below the breastplate and lower. But, I guess it's just something, if you look in the scouting report, and that's just something, that referees do too. So, it doesn't really bother me that they call it. I just got to, continue to lead with my shoulder as, a person that's tackling should, and not with the head.
Awesome. Next up, we're going to go to Manny Navarro of The Athletic. Manny, go ahead for Amari.
Hey, Amari, just kind of on the heels of that question, obviously you still want to be a hitter and you kind of want to intimidate the receivers, right? I mean, that's kind of the point still. You want to kind of make them remember that if they're going to run that route, that you're there. I wanted to ask you specifically about the play on Saturday. When you finished that play, the tight end, and you actually shook hands, I was just curious what he told you after that hit, and I guess could you take us through that play from your perspective, just what you saw specifically on what happened against Louisville?
Yeah, so remembering what he said, I can't even remember what he said. I think it was just something that I just went and shook his hand, and then gave him a pat. Probably said a good hitter, so I forgot what he said. I was so in the moment, ready for the next play. But it was a play, that I've seen, a couple of times, and if I saw it or just process the play a little bit earlier, it could possibly been like a pick. But it was a play that we got ran against us last week too, and I kind of missed it. So it was just a play that I've been seeing, and it's when I read it, I can roll out tight end fake block, then it comes out. It's kind of like a throwback play. But when I saw it, was like I said, I was like a second late on it, and I just saw him, his upfield shoulder, and that's the part that I attacked. Since his momentum was still taking him that way, and that's kind of what I was aiming for.
Was it at all, just as a quick follow, was it all like just trying to send the message too? Like when you deliver those big hits, is it about, hey, remember I'm here type of thing, maybe to intimidate receivers at all? Is that part of the thinking?
Nah, not at all. I just be playing football, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd be out there just trying to have, do my job, help the team get a win and have a good time. I never, sometimes, you get into, the talking back and forth, but essentially I'm there, to win games and just have fun with my brothers on the field. There's never like really anything bigger than that, to be honest.
Thank you.
Awesome. Next up, we're going to go to Susan Miller-Degnan of the Miami Herald. Susan, go ahead for Amari.
Hey, Amari, your class started the streak. This series seems to go in streaks, FSU Miami. And I think your class was the one who turned it around and got you going on this 3-game win streak. What does that mean to you, and why do you think, it turns out that way?
Well, first, I don't think, we would be anything without the older guys that, came before us. And, I was a part of that freshman class, that won, that ended the streak of 7 with Florida State winning. But, it was the older guys, that really held it down. And, they showed us the ropes. And ever since then, we've just been trying to, battle and keep the streak going. But the credit shouldn't go to, people like me. It should go to, the people that came before us, like Quan, Red, all those guys on offense, Shaq, Pink, all of those guys, the D-line from my freshman year, sophomore year. We did it, but they started it.
Hey, what did you learn from those guys about this rivalry? What does it mean to all of you? And, what have you learned about it?
Well, growing up in South Florida, it's always knew it's like a big thing, if not the most important rivalry in college football. So, they just, something that, we always recognize, and something that we're always told is, the team that goes in together, plays together, and, plays for the team is the team that comes out with the victory. And, that's something that we emphasize all the time here at Miami playing. It's all about trusting the guy next to you, and, just playing for each other, not for yourself, not a selfish type of player, but always playing, for your team.
Thank you.
Great. We have time for 2 more. Next up, we're going to go to Steve Wine from the Associated Press. Steve, go ahead for Amari.
Thank you, David. Also on the subject of the rivalry, the atmosphere in the stadium typically is so much a part of this game. What kind of atmosphere do you expect on Saturday?
I expect, nothing less of, what is already expected. With it being Miami, Florida State, we're always, missing our fans, with there, being a limit on, the amount of people that are present in the stadium. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be 22 people on the field, 11 on both sides. And, it's going to be a football game.
Awesome. Our last question for Amari is going to come from Tom D'Angelo of the Palm Beach Post. Tom, go ahead for Amari.
Hey, Amari, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but growing up, how much did you pay attention to this rivalry being in South Florida? And did you go to any of the games, and who were you rooting for?
So if I can remember, I went to one of the games. Did you ask who I'm rooting for?
Well, yeah, and when you were growing up, were you a Miami fan your whole life?
Okay. Yeah. So growing up, I was on crazy. I was on the other side, of the game. But I didn't know any better. My mom, she went to Florida State. My uncle went to Florida State. I have cousins that went to Florida State. But all of that was ended when I came to Miami. So the whole family, they went to Florida State, but of course, they're going for me.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Amari. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon.
All right, no problem. Y'all take care.